this video, I will talk about queue data structure. Okay, queue is a linear data structure. It has two ends, rear and front. Insertion of element in queue is done from rear, and removal or deletion of element from queue is done from front. Queue can be either static or dynamic. If array is used to implement queue, then it will become static. If linked list is used, then it will become dynamic. In programming languages like C, C++, Java, when we declare array, we have to specify the size of the array. And that array cannot go beyond the specified size. So it is static in nature. But in programming languages, JavaScript, PHP, we don't have to specify size of the array. Okay. Now in this video, I will show you how to insert element within the queue, how to remove element from the queue, and how to display the content of the queue. I will be writing the full class of the queue. Okay. Here I have written a few lines of the code. This is the queue class. In this queue class, I have declared four member variables: one integer array, another size, rear, and front. And in the constructor, I initialize these queues. In a queue constructor, size parameter is passed that will specify size of array queue. Rear is initialized with -1, front is initialized with 0, and size, that is the parameter specified or assigned to the member variable size of the queue. If the queue is empty, in that case the rear will be -1. Remember this. Okay. Now let's write the method to insert element within the queue. Okay. Public void insert int. Now first we have to check whether there is any space within the queue or not. Okay, so what we do is, if rear is less than size -1, that means there will be at least one space in the queue. Okay, if this is true, then we will increment the value of rear by 1. Okay, then we'll assign queue, then we'll assign x to this position. Here the initially rear was -1, so by incrementing rear by 1, it will become 0. That means we are assigning x to the first position of the queue. Okay, now let's say in the figure, zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Now initially size is, we have not specified. Let's create the object of queue. Queue is equal to new. Let's specify size be 10. Now this size will become 10 as we assign this size to the member variable size, so it will become 10, and the queue of size 10 will be created. Now let's call the insert function 5. Okay, now what will happen as we call the insert is, the x is assigned, this 5 is assigned to x, rear is less than size -1, that is 9, 10 minus 1 is 9, rear is -1. This condition evaluates true, -1 is less than 9. So rear will be incremented by 1, so rear will become 0. So in the 0th position, we are assigning x. That means this 5 will be stored here, and rear will point to this position. Now suppose we call this method again, insert 15. Now what will happen? The rear is now rear is 0, so 0 is less than 9, true, so rear will be incremented by 1. Now this will become 1, and this, and the second position, this x value will be assigned. That means this 15 will come here. Now let's call this again, insert, okay, 77. Now this rear is 1 here, 1 is less than 1, 1 is less than 9, true, so rear will be incremented by 1, so this will become 2. Then this third position, x will be assigned, so the value 77 will store here. We know that the array starts from the 0th position. Okay, so in this way, writing this simple logic, we can insert element within the queue. Now let's see the method to display the content of queue first. Okay, now let's write this method here. Public void display. Now for, we'll be using the for loop. Int I is equal to front, I less than equal to rear, I plus plus. Now what to do? System dot out dot print ln data plus q I. Okay, not single bracket, only one. Okay, now semicolon, close the for loop, close the method. Now let's call this q displayer. What will happen? Let's see. Now as we call display, this for loop will be executed. The I is assigned front. Initially the value of front is 0. So this I will become 0. 0 is less than or equal to, the value of rear here is 2. As we have inserted 3 elements, so rear is 2 here. So this condition evaluates to true. So this will be executed. Now we will get data, that is the 5 in the first position. Now I will be incremented by 1. Now it will become 1. So 1 is less than or equal to 2. That is true. Inside this statement, data, then it is 15. Again I will be incremented. Now I will become 2. Okay, 2 is less than or equal to 2. That is true. So within the body we are. Now this will display 77. Okay. Now I will be incremented again. Now it will become 3. Now this is false out of the for loop. Now this function will be terminated. Okay. So in this way we can display the content of the queue. We have to initialize counter with the front, and counter should be run up to the value of rear. Okay. Now let's write the method to remove the element from the queue. Okay. Let's do with this. Public void remove. Now we cannot remove element from empty queue. So we have to check whether the queue is empty or not. What we do is, if rear is equal to -1, that means it is empty. We will do nothing. Okay. Otherwise, in the else part, what we do, we simply increment the front by 1. Okay. Simple. Now let's close the class here. This program is continued up to there. Now this is the full program of the queue only. There is no driver program. I have not written the main method, no problem. Now let's call this remove here. Now what will happen? As we call the remove, this function will be called, this evaluates to false because our rear is 2. 2 is not equal to -1, false. So we will be taken to the else part. Okay. Now else, in the else part, front is incremented. So front will become 1 because initially front was 0. So it is incremented by 1. So it will become 1. This plus plus sign increments value by 1. Okay, we know that. So front will be 1. Now our front will be this. Now if we call this display method, what will happen? Now this I will be not 0 because the value of front is 1. So it will become 1. So our display method will display the contents 15 and 77. Okay. Now let's suppose we insert one more value. Insert 91. This, and then we call this display. Now what will happen? 99 will be stored here. Our rear will be 3. Okay. So front is 1 and rear is 3. So these 3 elements will be displayed. Okay. So in this way we can write the class for the queue, in which we have the method for inserting the data, displaying the content of the queue, and removing the data from the queue. This is a very simple one. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much.